people may trickle in. I'm Grace Bauer. This is Julie Kane. And we are the editors of Nasty Women Poets, an anthology that we truly wish had become irrelevant. Unfortunately, it has not become irrelevant. The background of this collection goes back to when a certain someone whose name I choose not to utter was running for president the first time, and we really had the highest hopes that we would have the first woman president of the United States, even though she had been referred to famously as a nasty woman. And we kept hearing that nasty woman thing, and one day in the shower, I had this idea, nasty women poets. And I called Julia and said, what do you think of this? And she goes, yeah. And then I called Christine Holbert at Lost Horse Press, who published one of my other books, and I said, would you be interested in doing this, Christine? And she was like, yeah. And our plan, we had written up a call for people to submit, but it was a very upbeat kind of call, and it was going to go out over the internet the day after the election. Unfortunately, the day after the election was no time to celebrate, and I thought, oh, well, we gotta give this up. And Christine was like, no, you don't give this up. This is more important now than ever. So we put out the call. It took us a day to rewrite the call for poems. We put out the call 2 days after the election, and the deadline was Inauguration Day. And then we got this huge anthology out as quickly as possible. It nearly killed us, but we were happy to do it. So do you want to read part of the call?
Yeah. This was our call. Now is the time for all nasty women poets to come to the aid of their country. We are seeking poems from women who proudly celebrate their own nastiness and that of other women who have served as nasty role models. We want poems by and about women defying limitations and ladylike expectations, women refusing to be nice girls, women embracing their inner bitch when the situation demands it, women being formidable and funny, women speaking to power and singing for the good of their souls, women being strong, sexy, strident, super smart, and stupendous, women who want to encourage little girls to keep dreaming. If you are a woman who refuses to submit, we want to read your submission.
No, he does have other names. Kid, drunk,
That's true.
the curse of everything.
So a couple of the readers, so the readers today will be, a couple of people have to drop out. So readers will be in alphabetical order, and everyone will read their poem from the anthology and one other poem of theirs. So the readers will be Ann Babson, Stacey Balcoon, Grace Bauer. Julie and I are in the anthology, so we've never gotten to read. We're remaining with her. Gina Ferrara, Nancy Harris couldn't be here, Julie, Biljana Obradovich, Allison Pellegrin, Valentine Pierce, and Andy Young could also not be here. So, and take it away. Thanks.
I want to say how grateful I remain to be in this nasty company. This is the reason I write poetry, is to talk with women like this about things that other people don't always dare to say. This was my poem in the anthology. It's called Geraldine Ferraro Has Blood Cancer.
Excuse me, would you introduce yourself? I don't know what you're about.
Oh, I'm Ann Babson.
Okay, thank you.
Good hi. The name of the poem is Geraldine Ferraro Has Blood Cancer. While I blot my eyes, I tell her, Geraldine Ferraro has blood cancer. She blinks twice, wets her lips, and asks, "Who is Geraldine Ferraro?" Oh yeah. For her, it's a lesson memorized for a final exam that has blood cancer. She blinks twice, wets her lips. I am old, odd, and now crying in front of her. Whatever, for her it's a lesson memorized for the final exam. Not a rock star tragedy, not the last scene of the movie. I am odd, old, and now crying in front of her. Whatever. She has no inkling, none of what it was like. Not a rock star tragedy, not the last scene of a movie when they wouldn't have made me boss. And she has no inkling, none, what it was like before when I waited tables and pinched toe pumps, no degree, when they wouldn't have made me boss, and she would have been a waitress too, or stenographer. Before, when I waited tables and pinched toe pumps, no degrees, maybe I would have wondered, who is Susan B. Anthony? She would have been a waitress too, or a stenographer, another sitcom mom, pearl necklace, and a chrome blender. Maybe I would have wondered, who is Susan B. Anthony? But I switched on the televised convention and got switched on. Another sitcom mom, pearl necklace, and a chrome blender in the commercial before the crowd went wild weeping. I switched on the televised convention and got switched on, living my whole life packaged in a low-ceiling flat in the commercial before the crowd went wild weeping. And I wept too, gasping the fresh air, but not even liking her, living my whole life packaged in a low-ceiling flat since she was New York, mafia entourage, and some nerve. And I wept too, gasping the fresh air, but not even liking her because the cage cupping my whole ambition swung open at last. She was New York, mafia entourage, and some nerve. My mother had scolded, "Cross your legs, sit like a lady." But the cage cupping my whole ambition swung open at last. She had a narrow nasal voice, said nothing I remembered. My mother had scolded, "Cross your legs, sit like a lady. Don't let him know you are smarter than he is. Quiet." She had a narrow nasal voice, said nothing I remembered without wincing, but a black battalion of cameras shuddered, "Don't let him know you are smarter than he is. Quiet." At this nominee, and she seemed as nonplussed as a future postage stamp. Without wincing, but a black battalion of cameras shuddered, and I was screaming, then howling into the sofa cushions in relief at the nominee, but she seemed as nonplussed as a future postage stamp by my reaction, half the country away from her. I was ransomed, and I was screaming, and then howling into the sofa cushions in relief, at least somebody showed them that I could do it. A girl could do it. My reaction, half the country away from her. I was ransomed. I went back to school, moved into the city, told nobody why. At least somebody showed them I could do it, a girl could do it. I got this job, got promoted, I became boss, and then the news. I went back to school, moved to the city, told nobody why. While I blot my eyes, I tell her, "Geraldine Ferraro." I got this job, got promoted, I became boss, and then the news. She asked, "Who is Geraldine Ferraro?" Oh yeah. I was in Berlin when the wall was being broken down and was falling, and I have been writing I have written, it's now under contract for next year, a book of poems where one of the voices in the book is Liz Cheney, about whom I have incredibly complicated feelings. And so I believe that it wasn't entirely impossible, though I have no knowledge of this, that Liz Cheney was in Berlin at the same time. So this is called Liz Cheney in Berlin in 1989. Dad arranged to fly for me with some contractors. "Your boss in USA ID didn't object. Most of them over there don't object ever." He winked. "I'm stuck in DC at the DOD. Be my eyes and ears and eyes, Lizzie. Go watch history." My friend Peg was there. I can't say why. I crashed at her studio on Zimmerstrasse, not more than a mile from Checkpoint Charlie. I dropped my bags, kept my passport, and stepped outside. The crowd was half fall down drunk like at the World Cup, only Berlin was the real world, the real cup. There were punk rockers polkaing with the Stasi. There were women my age carrying sledgehammers, slamming brick after brick out of that awful wall. A blonde man reeling and hooting grabbed my waist and turned me around, and then I saw them, 12 of them, younger than I was, jackboots, black tattoos, shaved heads, those awful armbands, spitting on a Turkish girl. And I ran, grabbed her arm, remembered my first year German, and shouted, "Lass uns hin, Schatzi," like she was part of the festival with me. And because of my blonde hair, blue eyes, fake laughter, they didn't chase us as we ran away, back to Zimmerstrasse, back to a closed Zimmer. Walked in with Peg and me boiling this poor girl some black tea, handing her tissues, calling her a taxi back to her mom's house. I couldn't tell Peg all of it. When Dad called, he asked me to tell him about freedom. I said, "There's dancing in the streets, also brown shirts. Dad, we never quite won the war the way we thought." I've been thinking about that girl. I don't recall her name. I remember her shaking hands around the cup we handed her, a wave goodbye.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, editors, for bringing us together for much needed community and resistance. I'm Stacy Balkin. My poem in Nasty Women is called Looking Up, after the astronaut Sally Ride, who when she went to space, being the first woman, they're like, what do we do with this one? Is 100 tampons enough for a woman? NASA. Looking up. How would orbit affect your ovaries? Your temper, they wondered. They doubted a woman in space, but you, Sally, your blue NASA suit held your body renamed courage. A crater bears your name on the moon. How could they ask if you would weep when things go wrong on the job? I wish I could have met you, begged you to tell me how it felt floating in zero gravity. We still gape, unable to understand, our necks tilted back as if we're still watching the shuttle burn. Thank you. A short one. I'm going to read a new poem too. It's pretty nasty. It takes its title from a story I overheard at an open mic that was a really touching tale about finding religion, and the line was, "I came in Jesus' lap." Nasty. So this is coming in Jesus' name. Or was it Jaime or Javier? It was the year of shitty hotel rooms in several cities, of sleeping with anyone who brought me to a basement bar, who stoked my nostalgia just right. Year of one library to the next, of Knoxville and Birmingham. I played Super Smash Brothers that year, and gin rummy and darts. I sat in sticky vinyl booths with no coasters and Christmas lights strung across the low ceilings, 70s shag. Never enough windows, never enough stained glass, but plenty of motorcycles and speedboats and trucks and men to drive them. I played pool with one, darts with two others, renaming the stations of the cross. Year I thought of everything as play, trying to let go. After Jesus, I worked my way through the apostles, then the saints. There was a Pete, Paul, Anthony. There were two Christophers, maybe three. There was always St. Joan haunting the corners of my calendar, the angles of my hips. I wasn't even trying to sleep with them all, but sometimes the body just wants to be held. And sometimes once it's held, it wants more. And sometimes when I want more and more. And sometimes feeling my own hair low on my back turns me on, and sometimes the word comma turns me on, and sometimes the stranger with thick hair past his shoulders looks up, squeezing my neck just enough and calls me a goddess, which no one ever has before, and it's enough to make me say yes to the next part. to get into his pickup. Yes, he can come into my room at the otherwise empty Red Roof Inn. Yes, we can unwrap the plastic motel cups and fill them with box Merlot. And yes, straddling his lap, trying to conjure his patron name, what it is I must be praying for. Will he help me find the small things I have lost? For safe travels, protection from storms? I tried to remember which one kissed my ankles and calves, which one took me into his mouth, offered a baguette, how many poured wine, and how I freely offered this penance of my body, my own blood.
Hello again. So I'm going to read two poems. As I said, Julie and I aren't in the anthology. We had hoped to be, but we found so many other good poets that we had to leave ourselves out. And I should mention that they were unable to get copies of the anthology for the book fair downstairs, but it still is available from Lost Horse Press or wherever you buy poems online, or get to the bookstore to order it, or whatever you do. And the first poem I'm going to read is from my book, Unholy Heart, New and Selected Poems, which they do have down at the book fair. And it's kind of like embracing bad girl selves, which I hope we all do. It's called Midlife Heavy Metal. I know I'm not the only woman in the world who spent her adolescence lusting to a backbeat, and still in some part of herself she has grown to deny. Can't resist a big-mouthed bad boy, surly siren in tight pants who swaggers and snarls and screams his heart out in the name of rock and roll. There he is on my TV screen, older than I am and showing his age, but still strutting what stuff he's got. He's Heathcliff with a microphone, a long, tall glass of water spiked with acid and desire, his hair a black mass of styling gel and tease, mouth a severe weather warning, eyes an invitation to a party we'll regret if we go to or not. Oh, we know better. Or at least we know we should. But somewhere deep inside, we still long for all the trouble he could stir up. We want to hear every lie we know by now his kind tells. We want to lie back, strut our own stuff, and be just a little bit like him, that bad boy every good girl is inside. And this is a new poem. It hasn't been published anywhere, and I brought to, for some reason I have found myself, and I should hesitate to do this in the presence of Julie, who I've heard referred to as the villanelle queen. So reading even a half-assed villanelle in front of her is maybe not folly. One thing I used to live in New Orleans. I live in Philadelphia now, and one thing I've loved being here for about a week is remembering how people call you darling or baby, which is so much better than other things called, that especially women of a certain age, which is what this is called, crone villanelle. Now that I'm a woman of a certain age, some call me young lady, most say ma'am, both of which evoke a bit of rage. I wish I had the calmness of a sage, sitting quietly in an ashram, contemplating time and my own age. The former flies, so goes the old adage, and life flies with it. Presto, alakazam, that winged chariot won't be stopped by rage. Things are worse for women at this stage. Dudes grow distinguished. Dames get judged less glam. Pardon the pun, I wish I could manage. A silver fox is still a suave image, but cougar's more a joke, a horny gram. To defy such stereotypes takes real courage. a battle women have been forced to wage since Eve's desire for knowledge got her damned. I think by now, we've earned a bit of rage. Don't fuck with women of a certain age.
Thanks to Grace and to Julie. It's good to see everybody. I'm Gina Ferreira. I have two short poems. The first poem is the one that's in the anthology, and I wrote it about my great aunt. I grew up Catholic, Sicilian, and so all the women in the family were really good, except for this aunt who, on Sundays, we would go over to my great-grandmother's house, and she was always late for Mass. So what she would do, she would just put her bra on, and then she would put her coat over. So this is called brassiere. The empty Shalimar, that memorable, magical emerald on her dresser, a tall state of amber. The bottle of taboo, from either, my aunt dabbed behind each ear, then lower, enough to cover the pulse before putting on her coat, olive green and nubby, a gold seahorse brooch affixed, round mother of pearl buttons, wafer-sized, that could have come from Saturn. She buttoned the coat over the black bra, scalloped cuffs, a trinity of hooks, taut straps, its own entity, a meeting of lace and wool, no silk, no chiffon, no pot de soie or gabardine in between. With a wink, just like that, she would leave late, a little bit of lace appearing, like the first sight of sunrise, and always as unstoppable. So I started, once the Nameless was reelected, I started like kind of seeking solace in art. And so I'm kind of working, I think, on maybe a new collection, all inspired by paintings and phrastic poems. And the one that I'm going to read, it's based on a sketch that Picasso did of Dora Maar. She was his partner, whatever, for probably about 8 years, during the 30s. She was an anti-fascist and a pioneering surrealist, and this is about a sketch he did of her, what sleep brings sketched. There's a war nearby, and everything it encompasses, troops, invasions, bombs in descent, detonating, casualties tallied, makeshift stretchers for the wounded, an absence of birds and butterflies. Though you look peaceful and unafraid, arms overhead, flat on your back, a respite and now reverie, an hour without trouble. Maybe you meant to undress and became too tired to loosen any beginning, middle, or end. Small epics, the 3 buttons on your blouse, intact. Suggestions of sunlight enter a window to make ecru paper pearlier. You glow while you dream. Shadows, darker graphite markings denote rumpled pillows. What sleep brings, 2 nearly straight lines of lashes, lids closed, the stillest tongue and lips, hair from a bun, now undone.
I am not Nancy Harris, unfortunately. I'm Julie Kane, co-editor of the Anthology, and I'm going to read 2 short poems, one politically nasty and one relationship nasty. The first one is called Midship, and it's a duplex with gratitude to Jericho Brown for that wonderful form. Midship. I will not write a pandemic poem. I'll fix another bowl of mint chip ice cream. I've gained 11 pounds on mint chip ice cream. Nobody sees my body, so it doesn't count. The last man on earth to see my body lied to me about voting for Trump. Trump voters think the virus is a hoax. I no longer want him to touch my body. Yoga pants barely touch the body. Is anyone on Zoom even wearing pants? No Trumpster is gonna get into these panties. Let's make America Puritan again. I hear America's ventilators panting. DJ Trump's beatbox for pandemic poems. And this is a little sonnet called Finale, the relationship nasty one. How you begin was not always the same. At times, you'd even face me for a while. But always in that drive before you came, you'd flip me over, finish doggy style. Another funny thing, you'd never try to steal a peek at me when I undressed. I wondered if you'd rather have a guy, if that was why you covered up my breasts. Or maybe I was wrong and you were straight, but ex or mama used to yap, yap, yap. You'd shove my mouth into the pillowcase to face an uncommunicative back. I haven't met her yet, your newest friend, and yet I bet my butt about the end.
Keep being nasty. So I'll read two poems, one from the anthology and one a new poem. Well, some of you have heard it probably. Doesn't matter. Huh?
Say your name.
Oh, Biljana Obradović. This is a poem that I teach at Xavier. I've been at Xavier for 28 years, 9 years. I don't know. In New Orleans, 29 years. And, you know, when I teach my students, Julie probably knows this, you know, to write a sonnet. I guess one of the students used a spell check and in responding to a student's poem, misspelled the word Volta. And so it's called Found Her Vulva. In response to a peer's sonnet, a student says, the vulva isn't dramatic enough for me, but I do like the repetition. Good vulva showing an escape to the clutters of your world. It really is a love-hate relationship with chemistry, as exemplified in her vulva. Do you mean Volta? I respond, but it's too late. So, you know, I have a new book coming out from LSU Press called By Distances. And so this is one of the poems that, that has to do with calling me names, different names. It's called A Hierarchy of Names. I come from ex-Yugoslavia originally, and my name, Biljana Obradović, is a little bit weird for people. So here it is, a hierarchy of names for Dusan, my nephew. My nephew says where he lives in Italy, they call non-EU citizens extracomunitario, a pejorative word. In Greece, he introduces himself to Italian tourists, his clients, as Sean O'Brady, not Dusan Obradović, which is his real name, and they in turn think him Irish, a good thing, not a Serb. When the once U.S. Poet Laureate Charles Cynic came to the U.S., he changed his name from Dushan to Charles. He removed the funny mark on the C. At the turn of the 20th century, when a family with my last name came through Ellis Island on their way to Omaha, Nebraska, they changed their name to O'' capital B, Bradovich with an H, to make it Irish, which must have been what the officers presumed it was among the masses of starving Irish immigrants to America. I didn't want to change my name when I became a U.S. citizen, but I often wonder if I should have taken my husband's name and become Billy Ann O'Gary, or take his old name, Docherty, Billy Ann O'Docherty. Very Scotch-Irish, very American. But I'd need to keep the O to remember what used to be there, what used to be me before I was urged to assimilate, not to be constantly looked down upon as foreign. In my office drawer, I keep cutouts from the envelopes addressed to me with my name misspelled, and now even get excited at this prospect of each new surprise. Oh, Bradovi, oh, Bradovic, with an apostrophe, of course, or Bilyara, Bilhana, Bilzanan, or Bitiana. I did not add an H to the end of my last name. Let people struggle, keep asking how to spell it, how to pronounce it. Perhaps my name will become memorable. One day, everyone will know the right spelling, and I won't have to do anything. Maybe some will name their children after me. Transform, blend in, that's the last thing I want.
Good morning, I'm Allison Pellegrin. I'm struggling to get started this morning, so forgive me. I'm going to read my poem from the Anthology first. This is something I don't see that much anymore. I almost mourn it. But remember those truck nuts that would hang?
Oh,
You know, trucks. This is called blue balls. With bumper nuts for dualies and monster trucks, who needs fuzzy dice or a dashboard Jesus? I prefer them life-size with baby names, tenders or jewels, something to cradle and protect, not sandbags dragging from Humvee convoys in Afghanistan. A gag gift, the new pet rock, choco balls, bubblegum and lime, red hot Tabasco balls with popping veins, camo balls for four-wheelers, and for breast men, awareness pinkies like cowbells to and fro from tow hitches in the Walmart parking lot. A desire rises in me. I want to get crafty, to get dirty on my knees, on my back, underneath, just like in high school, but with candle wax and a glue gun. Spangle them with glitter and sequins, and voila, Liberace balls dragging across speed bumps, sleeping, instead of skid marks, sparkle in their wake. I feel so bad for you, big boys, hung with twin Christmas hams. Those things look like they hurt. I used to have a rabbit's foot keychain I rubbed for luck. Now there are bitty balls, pocket nuts swinging from the ignition, their whisper of a touch against my knee on all my travels. Is this what it's like to be a man? Is this what inspires one to raise the question on a t-shirt? Do you want to ride my fat boys? I let you say that to all the girls. To the Hooters girls in gravel, tickling your pickup's manly flesh. Country boy in blue jeans, straddling the blue balls chained to your truck. What's wrong with this picture? Hint, hint, it's not your package, a sky blue rabbit's foot bulging through your Wranglers, but the other. That which must be cocksocked, tucked away on first dates and church picnics. Disco electric, neon hernia, baby daddy, ball and chain, Blue bird of happiness, balls. This is a ballad that uses a line from W.S. Merwin, "The traitor has the best patriot costume." And it's called Ballad of the Insurrectionists. I have seen the morons of my generation diapered in the Gadsden flag. Chicken daddy camo boys hunkered down in mommy's man cave bunker. Incel central, their culture war's gone underground. They think they're brave, undercover but easy to spot, stampeding to stop the steal. Let's face it, the traitor has the best patriot costume. I spy zip ties, a Velcro vest, each pocket tailored to fit hand grenades and pencil dick cartridges stockpiled to infinity. Malone LeBay their battle cry. They are serious. They took a bus. They think they're freedom riders standing for their rights. Is this a history lesson? Did I doze off? Because all I've learned is that traitors have the best patriot costumes. Most were camo clowns, but some were militia with training, and they marched through the gates in formation. Where's backup? Where's Pence? What makes this a few bad apples and not a coup? If not for selfies and live streams, we wouldn't have any names. I'll repeat it for those in the back like the lady I am. Traitors have the best patriot costumes, and I'm pissed enough to pledge my bad aim to the cause. I'd rather pour libations, act a fool, but today I empty my clip at target practice. Traitors in patriot costumes.
First, I want to comment on the balls. I don't know if y'all remember this. There was a car commercial. It had absolutely no talking. It had metal and all of this stuff going through it and some brass balls rolling down the line. And I said, well, I'm like, I don't think I read that. That was amazing. The other comment is, I'm still young enough to know now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of our country. But I added on to it. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of our country. So come to my aid, you good countryman. Let's see. I'm going to read my poem from the book, and then I'm going to read another poem from the book, the same one I read the first time we had the National
Valentine, tell us your name, Valentine.
Yes, I just assume that people just call me the crazy part. I'm Valentine here. That's the crazy one. Don't mind her. It's like Nikki Giovanni's poem about don't worry about her mother because her mother's a poet, she's crazy. Okay, I guess I'll start with mine. If I can find it. Where did I put it? It's called Handmaiden. Y'all can hear me well enough, right? I see it, but don't believe it. This bloodletting, this certain cruelty, disguised as self-expression, as freedom of speech, of liberty, the pursuit, undaunted by blood, the split flesh, the screams. You live in your self-spirit, pretend and encompasses us all. Pretend that you love and mean well, when you are just mean. Flat out, cruel and thoughtless. Thought I was blind to it, No, merely trying to be a good handmaiden, a good spiritual daughter who abides her father's will and loves despite, forgives relentlessly, stands strong, walks tall on the path despite your narrow-mindedness, your iron grave and attitude that you pretend does not exist. But even good handmaids know when the demon has control. Good handmaids know it when to throw in the towel and run like hell into the next village. And this one is by Lynn Thompson. It's called Swing Low, Free. One that reminds me of a spiritual. And because she spoke Kosa, I'm going to see if I can do that at least once. That little thing. So, as scout and spy, nurse and train, swing low, I went back to soft over and brought them out. Master riders tried to sell me. He failed. I turned to run away after, fled north and flaunted rules of men. Made to foil our liberty, led my kin, Ma and Pa, from the land of Black-Eyed Susan. I could not say all who led my blood, but I led multitudes, from Bucktown to Cambridge, Camden to Blackbird, trusted in Bang-Congo, Mojo, Nigis Makola, relied on Kosa charms, and fake bows, blue and white clothes hung from oaks on doors, on countless quotes. Along the way, their patterns steering us north by stitch. Shoe flower, log cabin, bear's paw, wagon wheel, sweet swinging from Portico to Dover, in Smyrna and Odessa. Our fuel guides to the Chop Tank River, a cipher of bedclothes draped for an uppity Moses or sweet chariot. I would live free or die. When I took the freedom and looked at my hand, I knew I had to leave. The same breaker of laws in Newcastle and Wilmington, Chester County and beyond, where I brought them out to the eastern shore where my mighty Jehovah was troubling the water with slave holders who named me Araminta, slave drivers who put a bounty on my head, descended from Ashanti. I remember Nancy, West Africa's trickster, following the drinking gourd and stole away to Jesus on Whirlpool Bridge, Canada, where I looked overjoyed. I had help. Fred Douglass and William Steele and many Quakers who were almost as good as colored and could be trusted every time to burn bright the candlelight in their gatherings. Always I went back, died, March 10th, crossed over freedom. Today I am lauded and immortalized. Roots of struggle stitched on my busted faces of unnamed mistakers tagged on the skirt of the sky. Spy, nurse, train, a woman singing, we are meant to be free, to live free.
We have a few minutes left because of a couple of people who were not able to be here. So we thought, Julie and I thought we would read, do you want to read?
Yeah.
Poems by other people who were in the anthology who could not be here because they died. So a little memorial for nasty women past.
Okay. And this is a tiny poem by the late Kim Bridgeford. If you knew her, just the most wonderful human being, lost too soon from brain cancer. And it's called Why Emily Dickinson Would March on Washington. Unsuffocate, release before, because some things you leave home for, with more than jam, and you are ready, because sometimes a basket's heavy, because your dashes work away, because you have a door cachet, because you find you right to sow both life and death, you have to go.
And this is a poem by Martha McFerrin, who died last year, and some of you and New Orleans people know Martha, who was a true eccentric. This poem is called A Moment of Tribute. Hey, ever notice how women used to fall like small republics on the movie screens of America? We'd have the sobbing heroine fleeing through the swamps or jungles, a parking lot, or the zoo at midnight, with a spy, husband, werewolf, man in black, or freelance nutcake in competent pursuit. And always, the poor dope would take a tumble over a box hedge or hit a gopher hole and pull up lame so those bad hombres could snatch her up. Even when the ground was flatter than Paul Newman's abdomen, Miss Ineptitude would go sprawling ass over acting lessons, and even Snow White in the big cartoon had to meet with every anthropomorphic root in the enchanted forest. For our relief, we owe the trimmest thanks to actress Raquel Welch, AKA Rocky, who pioneered the art of staying on one's feet. I can assure you, after hours of late night research, that this female piston galloped through movie after movie without tripping once. And on occasion, she also turned around and kicked her pursuer in the stomach, or whatever the censors would permit. And now we have women all over, dropping gangsters or fighting zombies. So pause, escapees, briefly on your feet for our forerunner, Raquel, who dodged the KGB, bulls, dogs, pterodactyls, and enormous corpuscles. Spirits, breasts, and hemline never fell. Thank you all for being here bright and early on a Sunday morning. Look for the anthology and enjoy the rest of the festival.